Hey, greetings everybody, it's GleeCon back again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last one, we ran around Orgrimmar and exploring, and it seemed it was going to go smoothly and come in at about an hour compared to the hour and a half. But then at the end, Thrall gave us a small quest chain, which led to another quest, which will be a decent reward, I imagine, to go into Ragefire Chasm, which we're not quite ready for yet. So that ended up making it longer than the human one, and almost right up there at the ceiling of some of the longest ones we've done yet. But we have explored Orgrimmar now, and on the next time we play Classic, we'll look into the Ironforge, which I think Orgrimmar and Stormwind are the biggest capitals, so they should be, the others shouldn't be as big as that. We've also been reading this Lands of Mystery, and we're now going to be at the last section of Chapter 8. Sorry about the noise in the background again. I apologize. I know there are some masking background software programs that I can use. I already use some, but if I'm going to crank out some of these videos, I got to do it in the times when it's good for me, and I can't tell my family to put everything else on hold. But eventually I will get to a point where I revamp one of the rooms, I think, and make it to the studio, as long as you guys keep liking, subscribing, and showing me that it's worth it, which everyone has been. I'm super happy. Everyone's been really cool, like overwhelmingly positive anytime someone jumps in on this video and makes a comment or a like and or a subscription. So it's super cool. But anyhow, we're going to wrap this up by looking at the Scourge. It's the final of the organizations, and they save the longest for the last because it's probably the most complex. But I do think it's weird that we haven't covered the Scourge before now, when it's definitely played a role long before World of Warcraft. There we go. The membership of the Scourge is unknown, undoubtedly in the tens or hundreds of thousands, if not more. It's a lawful evil organization. It's all throughout Lordaeron and Northrend, and you could argue all over, but sure, Kalimdor is less infested. Their activities are to sow evil, terror, and undeath among the living, dominate Lordaeron and eventually the world, return the Forsaken to the power of the Scourge, destroy the Alliance, the Horde, and the Burning Legion, so they're against anyone and everyone. Everyone knows about the Scourge. They paved the way for the coming of the Burning Legion. The Lich King, who was an Orc warlock, big surprise that it was an Orc warlock, huh? Named Ner'zhul, sent an undead plague to Lordaeron with the help of a corrupted Alliance archmage, Kel'Thuzad. This attack threw the citizens into chaos. Some contracted a plague that would kill them and raise them as foul zombies or worse, and others were forced to watch the graveyards erupt, their loved ones returning as monsters. The Lich King then corrupted the beloved prince of Lordaeron, Arthas. In a masterful move, he played Arthas with the help of Kel'Thuzad, convincing him that he served his people by slaying them in cold blood when he realized they had contracted the undead plague. His soul was forfeit when he took up the powerful corrupted blade Frostmourne with the intent of becoming powerful enough to save his people. He became a Death Knight, killed his father in cold blood, and claimed the throne of Lordaeron for the Scourge. When the Lich King's power began to fail, Arthas investigated and split the frozen throne where Ner'zhul was imprisoned. The power of the Lich King entered him, Ner'zhul and Arthas merged, and Arthas claimed the frozen throne as the new Lich King. So he's now the new Lich King and resides in Northrend, the place of his corruption. He, however, is not encased in ice as the former Lich King was, and all we know is that he commands the Scourge on Northrend as well as the thousands of undead that have overrun the former jewel of the Alliance, Lordaeron. We do not know the current plans of the Scourge, but we all fear the implications of more and more undead, powerful necromancers, and liches populating what used to be our homes. Fighting in war and dying a warrior's death is one thing. I face that every day gladly. Yet fighting with the knowledge that your death will not be a clean one, that you will come back as a foul being, that is something else. The Scourge fights everyone, Alliance, Horde, Burning Legion, and innocent bystanders. You'd think with that army, that many enemies, it would fall, but it does not. It thrives, because when we lose warriors in battle, they gain them. It is a tough move. That's a tough thing. The Scourge is not invincible, however. I've cut down many of them, some of them once my own friends, and will cut down more. I don't know anyone, Tauren or Gnome, who would not do as much. Otherwise, searched out those two races. What we hate, however, is the necessity of defiling our own people's corpses to make them unfit for the Scourge to raise again. There are some who cannot bring themselves to do this for religious or sentimental reasons. They're fools. It is better to cut off a friend's head when he's dead than to cut it off when he's risen again and can look you in the eye. Fighting the Scourge is something everyone on Azeroth can get behind, while simply killing a creature again doesn't seem to do the job, as they often have a necromancer on the rear lines to just raise the damn thing. I'm fond of cutting them up. A couple of good slices with the axe and they're done for. Fire is also useful, as charred husks do not serve as such a useful army. People do not want to come home to burned fields and shells of houses, but a scorched home is better than no home at all. We have the Knights of the Silver Hand on our side, but this is a group that has experienced more hardships than most during these dark days. Once the pinnacle of enlightenment, goodness, purity, and light, they are forever ashamed that the powerful Lich King, who sits upon the frozen throne, was one of theirs. They racked their brains on where they went wrong, why they couldn't see the streak of evil that obviously lurked inside Arthas. If he were truly a paladin as they are, then there's no way he would have been corrupted. I think they have rather a too high opinion of the paladins, but I'm not the one to tell them. Even though paladins are some of our most powerful weapons against the Scourge with their holy power over undead, the paladins are not what they once were. Some have been driven into obsessive madness, forming the Scarlet Crusade and killing living and undead allies alike in their eagerness to eradicate the Scourge. Others traveled across the sea with Jaina Proudmoore to help defeat the Burning Legion and now reside on Theramore. They certainly do what they can to destroy undead they discover on Kalimdor, but the Scourge's numbers there are like a thimble of beer compared to the great kegs that are Lordaeron and Northrend. We'll need the Paladins to defeat the Scourge, but they're not up to the task right now, and I don't know how much longer we can wait. Reports from Lordaeron say that the Scourge's goal currently is to hunt down the remaining pockets of resistance, destroy the remote villages, and raze all of the Alliance's graveyards. Essentially, they're trying to take what was once the most populated continent and turn it into hell, subverting every available person, dead or alive, to their control. Organization. At the top of the organization, of course, is the Lich King Arthas. He sends orders from on high in his ice fortress at Northrend. He directs his direct underlings are liches, undead mages, and necromancers with incredible power to spread plague and command undead armies. I do not know how many liches there are, but I know Arthas's right-hand lich is Kel'Thuzad, who reigns in Lordaeron. He has his hands partially full fighting the Scarlet Crusade, human zealots who would just as soon kill a living creature as an undead one. Just to make sure, Kel'Thuzad also battles the Forsaken, who are undead who broke free from the control of the Lich King. Yes, we have two groups of undead to deal with. Makes me want to pick up my axe and go harvesting some zombie heads. Another fearsome undead creature is the Banshee. They often lead scouting troops to discover new areas to infiltrate. Other important Scourge members include necromancers, who are responsible for raising the dead and commanding them, and the Cult of the Damned, a bizarre group of mortals, mostly human, who are insane. They are so fascinated by the undead that they follow them, worship them, even emulate them, hoping to one day be damned as the undead are. They don't see the foulness and evil. They see power and eternal life. How they can view existence as a rotting creature who's slave to a bastard in Northrend as something they want to experience forever is beyond me. See Lance of Conflict for more information on the Cult of the Damned. Yeah, that's the previous kind of iteration of this book. Or I guess you could maybe say it's like a companion book to this. Most of the undead report to a region's necromancers or liches, who in turn report to Kel'Thuzad. He reports pertinent information to Arthas, but I do not think he inundates his lord with all of the details of the happenings on the continents. That's a lot of news. And what is there to say anyway? Greetings, Lord, I killed some people, turned them undead, and rotted a bit? Then again, if they take over another city the size of Stratholme, or re-enslave the Forsaken, that would be news indeed. The rogue undead, the Forsaken, are the wild cards here. Apparently, Arthas lost some power over the undead before becoming the Lich King, which allowed one of the more powerful banshees, Sylvanas Windrunner, to escape his hold. She freed many more undead creatures and currently leads the Forsaken from her tunnel complex underneath the former court of Lordaeron. While they're not part of the Scourge and do not fall into the Scourge organization, they certainly work along the same lines: kill the living and dominate the whole of Azeroth. Arthas sees the Forsaken as something akin to lost sheep and wishes to bring them back into the Scourge. He has many plans for Azeroth, so he can't focus entirely on Sylvanas, but who knows when he'll turn his full gaze to her and her followers. The interesting thing is that the farther from a lich or a necromancer the undead get, the more disoriented they are. They lose the command of the Lich King, but they don't necessarily become free. Once the will of the necromancer or other controlling force leaves their head, they have no memory of their former selves, and they shuffle around, mindless husks, searching for someone to lead them. Of course, you or I couldn't do it. There's no going up to a zombie and commanding it to follow you unless you're a necromancer. Locations. Arthas leads the Scourge in Northrend from the Frozen Throne, and he can't throw a dagger in Icecrown without hitting one of those beasts. And believe me, I've been there and thrown those daggers. There's always more. The Scourge's secondary base is the continent of Lordaeron in the city of Stratholme, Arthas' first conquest. It was a bustling city of 25,000 people. I'd visited it often, and now it's gone. I don't believe there are any remaining mortals there, except for those of the Cult of the Damned and mortal necromancers. It is a pleasure to kill one of those traitorous bastards and make it so they can never be raised. Take the head. That usually does it. Lordaeron's north and eastern areas are practically abysmal with the Scourge. Their foul stench permeates the air. Yet the Scourge has reached all areas of the world, dripping down through my home of Cosmodon and into Azeroth, and even west to Kalimdor. Arthas wants his finger on everything happening in the world, and he has the forces to do it. About the only place the Scourge doesn't go is the Undercity in Lordaeron, but it's lousy enough with Forsaken that you couldn't tell if there was a Scourge presence there or not. Well, the Forsaken might know, yet hanging out in the city of Scourge and Forsaken is not my idea of fun, even if they do serve good beer. Members. The members of the Scourge are easy to spot, smell, and identify, and it doesn't take much to join. Either love the Scourge or be undead and under the Lich King's spell, and you're in. Not a lot you have to do to be in this club. Some of the first members were mortals who had fallen in the undead plague. People sickened from the plague and died only to rise as zombies. This city-raising technique proved to be not as efficient as the Lich King desired, apparently, because he started telling his necromancers to desecrate our graveyards and raise up even more members. Only two things seem to separate a Scourge servitor from the Lich King's will. Whatever faltering in the Lich King's power allowed the Forsaken to free themselves from his grasp, and a good old-fashioned axe. Scourge creatures are bidden to do the Lich King's will, and they do this with a blind fervor. The Cult of the Damned, now there's an enigma. No one knows why they do what they do. Mothers didn't love them enough, didn't get the right apprenticeships, love of their lives spurned them, or got turned into undead. There's a grotesque thought. Ew, necrophilia. Whatever the reason, they willfully follow the Scourge, dressing in dark robes, doing their bidding, helping to spread the plague into more and more cities. Leaders. Arthas the Lich King. Formerly a Knight of the Silver Hand and heir to the throne of Lordaeron, Arthas was a proud paladin. When he saw his people sicken and die of plague, then rise as an undead army against him, he went a little mad. Feeling the only way to cleanse the plague would be to kill those infected with it, he slaughtered many in the city of Stratholme. He did not succeed in holding back the plague, and the city fell to the Scourge. He then heard of a mighty blade that could give him the power to defeat the Scourge, but it was a clever trap designed to enslave Arthas. He murdered mercenaries and then his own allies during the journey to get the blade, and once there, surrendered his soul to Frostmourne and slew his friend Myrddin Bronzebeard. Now supposedly powerful enough to help his people, he was so well and truly evil that he gave his services willingly to the Scourge. Arthas was a faithful servant to the Lich King and in charge of the Scourge. When he felt his power wane, tremors ran through the earth. Illidan Stormrage had taken on the aspect of a demon, then raised an army of Naga and Blood Elves to strike at the Frozen Throne. Arthas and his army of undead met and defeated Illidan's forces at Icecrown Citadel. The throne was sundered, and Ner'zhul's spirit was finally free. It entered Arthas, and the two beings mingled, becoming the new Lich King. Okay. Now Arthas reigns from Northrend, driving the Scourge to take over more and more of the living lands. He has many goals, or so we believe. He wants to retake control of the Forsaken, becoming king or god of all undead. He wants to spread the plague south to Stormwind and the surrounding towns and over to Kalimdor. He wants to kill his former friend and lover, Jaina Proudmoore, and take control of the Alliance. And then just to make sure he hasn't missed anything, he wants to control all sentient races on the planet. The Night Elves even whisper that he has his eyes set on the dragons and even Elune for domination. If he can destroy the gods of Azeroth, then nothing can stop him. All right, let's read Death in the North sidebar. From the journal of Gemni Coppertongue, found in the wilderness of Northrend. My travels through Northrend have gone as expected. The landscape has changed considerably since the Scourge has taken up residence here. The slime and mold that has taken over Lordaeron looks like a dirty hanky compared to this. Most of the animals that used to prowl these northern wastes are gone. I saw a small army of zombies find a rabbit burrow, root it out, and devour every living thing they could find. Ghosts fly high above, searching the caves for any mountain cats that they can suck the life from. In some regions, there are no birds, no land creatures. I didn't even find insects on the small scraps the zombies had left behind. They've removed the life from everything. There are not, however, as many Scourge creatures here as I expected. The land is thick with them, yes, but not as many as reported. Necromancers ride to and from the Frozen Throne frequently, leading groups of loping undead behind them. A small port on the southern coast bustles with shipbuilding, but the wilderness around Icecrown is as dead as the wildlife. This leads me to think that much of Arthas' army has moved to the mainland. I don't know what they're planning, but I intend to send word back as soon as I finish this journey. There were no ships on the water when I landed. 3 large ships are in the construction. I expect they'll be finished in a month or so. The zombies swarm over the ships, working non-stop. I suppose they don't get tired. Then again, with a necromancer over me, I might work round the clock too. Icecrown Citadel glows, sending its light up into the night sky. It's a necropolis, purple arcane power pulsing from it, making it easy to find. I plan on heading there tomorrow to see what I can find out. I've done much to conceal myself and am somewhat confident I will remain safe. I plan on returning to my skiff in Lordaeron in 2 days after mapping out the area around the Frozen Throne. I've kept an eye on the main road since I got here and have not seen him at all. He should be at his necropolis doing who knows what. I intend on finding out at least a little bit. I will add to this report tomorrow night after my trip to Arthas' fortress. The torn and bloody journal ends here. Brand's note. I'm not sure how reliable Gemini Coppertongue is. I didn't notice Icecrown glowing, for instance. Perhaps it was in the throes of some arcane experiment, or perhaps Gemini is a few ounces short of a powder horn. I don't think so. Okay, another leader is Kel'Thuzad, the male Lich Necromancer, level 25. Kel'Thuzad was a human mage whose addiction to arcane magic allowed Ner'zhul to corrupt him. 20 years ago, Kel'Thuzad started the Cult of the Damned to help spread Ner'zhul's undead plague. It took 15 years to develop the plague and start its spread, but once it took hold, it snowballed like a child's game in Cosmodon gone wrong. Kel'Thuzad had a hand in the corruption of Arthas, taunting him and drawing him further and further north. Arthas killed Kel'Thuzad, but later raised him as a powerful lich. Once Arthas was fully corrupted, he took Kel'Thuzad as his second. They began doing the Lich King's bidding, which was to summon the demons of the Burning Legion into the world. The line of power gets a little fuzzy here, but I believe I've puzzled out the truth. The Lich King was bound to do the will of the Burning Legion. Arthas and Kel'Thuzad were bound to do the will of the Lich King. During the Third War, Arthas and Kel'Thuzad, although faithful to their lord, did not want to do the will of the demons. They had begun to feel the hatred of the Lich King had for his enslavers, the demons, and began to work on a way to free themselves from the hold of the Burning Legion. Like it or not, I believe it was the mutiny of the Scourge that had a hand in our victory over the Burning Legion. If Archimonde had been able to command the entirety of the Scourge, I don't think there would have been anyone to stop them. I don't know anyone who feels gratitude toward the Scourge, however. Currently, Kel'Thuzad resides in Stratholme, instructing the Scourge, reporting to Arthas, and overseeing the Cult of the Damned. He appears to be completely dedicated to the Lich King, but one has to wonder. Ner'zhul wished to break free from his servitude to the demons. Arthas absorbed the power of Ner'zhul. Does Kel'Thuzad wish to one day take Arthas' place at the throne in Northrend? The resulting battle would be a fascinating one to watch. It might do a decent job of eradicating a good amount of the undead. In fact, that might be a really good thing. Setting the two enemies, the Scourge and the Burning Legion, against each other in the Third War served almost everyone. Least of all the demons, of course. Lynena Hallow is a female human necromancer level 13. Lynena studied magic from an early age, having been dumped on the doorstep of a mage's house in Stormwind as a child. Having no parents and being raised among mages, she grew to be talented and cold. I met her once years ago. She stopped in Cosmodon on her way north. We didn't know at the time that she was secretly training as a necromancer and had been in contact with Kel'Thuzad. He called her to be by his side as he sowed the undead plague through Stratholme. And she was instrumental in raising the undead to strengthen the Scourge's army. With that done, she began training necromancers to further serve the Scourge. She has met with some resistance as the Forsaken do what they can to stop her. The Forsaken are desperate for the powers of a necromancer, and they focus on the trainees to try to entice them to their side. However, the Scourge has so much more to offer a necromancer, and most of them serve Arthas. With Lynena training them, they become as cold and calculating as she is. Lynena's whereabouts are currently unknown, but her name is whispered enough to assure me that she is still alive and well, and still raising the undead around Lordaeron. I suspect she is in southern Lordaeron around the Hillsbrad foothills, or sniffing around the proud city of Airy Peak. After depleting the graveyards of our dead, I suspect she could be planning on slaughtering the trolls in the area and then raising them, but I fear she's hunting the green dragons that patrol and protect the area. The Scourge is terrifying. The Scourge accompanied by undead green dragons would be a juggernaut. And here's the final thing in this chapter, a letter from Uther Lightbringer to the paladin Mimblis Evermorn, in year 24. Mimblis, greetings, my friend. I hope the light finds you well. The young Arthas fills me with hope. He recently became a full paladin, and is nearly all I could hope for in a Knight of the Silver Hand. He is strong and powerful with a devotion to his people that borders on zealousness. He's a fine paladin and will make a fine king when our beloved Taranis leaves us. Arthas has some growing to do, so I hope King Taranis will remain here for some time. The only thing that bothers me about Arthas is that he has a disturbing quality in him. Sometimes in training I've seen him go a little far while sparring. He is so dedicated to winning the match that he forgets that it is only for training. He lacks control. I suppose it's a sense of ruthlessness that lies under his honorable exterior. I have full confidence that he will use this dedication to battle for his people, and I look forward to testing him. Once he really whets his sword, I can begin to teach him control. I don't want to reign his power just yet, until I can see what he's capable of. Arthas loves his people very much. We recently visited some of the poorer villages outside of Lordaeron, giving healing to those in need. I wanted to test his healing powers as well as see how he interacted with his people beyond the wealthy nobles in the city. He was full of pity for these people, weeping for a woman who had lost her leg in a wolf attack. After healing her pain, he set out on horseback searching for the wolf. He slew 3, bringing the pelts back to the woman to serve as her blankets. I was touched, but again a little alarmed at his single-mindedness. She was grateful, as we were there to serve the wounded and sick. Our work was completed, and as we were there. His relationship with Jane and Proudmoore is one I must watch. Lordaeron has never had a mage as a queen, but if she and Arthas wed, that's what we'll be faced with. Perhaps it will be a good union of magic and politics, or at least bring the mages and paladins closer together. I will watch them carefully. A good thing about Jane is that she will soften his hard edges. While she attacks her obstacles with a firm and unyielding mind, she is more diplomatic and cerebral in her approach, while Arthas may simply hammer on something until it disintegrates. They will make a strong union. He is the naked steel of a sword, and she is a fist in a velvet glove. I have confidence that they will receive public support, and I will lend them my support as well. I watch Arthas training on the field and feel he can take on anything. He attacks with a single-mindedness that I know he will apply toward anything in life, be it physical confrontations or political. King Taranis has a good son. I have total confidence in Arthas, yet he has more to learn. But don't we all? He'll overcome his weaknesses and become a wise king in time. Looking forward to our trip to Strathholm, Uther. If only Uther was right. To everyone's doom. All right, we got another episode in the pipe, 555, and this one is pretty much wrapped up. This book is, we got one more chapter, I think, that's going to talk about certain prestige classes and stuff. Thanks, everybody, so much for watching and listening. I will see you all next time on Lore of Warcraft.